We are at Pwn2Own, one of the most prestigious hacking competitions. Eduardo Bojin and Tao Yan from Palo Alto Networks just demonstrated their zero-day exploit against Firefox on stage, and we are on the way to the disclosure room to hear all the details. And by we, I mean Freddy and Dakota from Mozilla, who allowed me to follow them with a camera and document their experience. Mozilla is using Pwn2Own as a security fire drill to practice what happens if a zero-day is discovered in the wild. So let's see what happens in the disclosure room at Pwn2Own. This USB stick was just sold for $50,000. What could be that valuable? It's not a crypto wallet, no stolen data and no state secrets. Just a few lines of code. Beautiful but dangerous code. A zero-day exploit. In a back room of a hotel in Berlin, the trade went down. They are the ones who bought it. They are the ones who sold it. And they will make it worthless within hours. This is the story of two Firefox Zero Days, the world's most prestigious hacking competition, and what it takes to keep millions of users safe. It's now 11:45, so it has been quite a while since they proved it on stage that their exploit worked. They are still in the room with ZDI to confirm the bug. We do wonder why. Are there details missing? Are they not sure if it's a duplicate? Because that's one of the things ZDI looks for. It could be that it's a duplicate and that's why it takes this long. So let's see how much longer it takes. We had to wait a little longer. Afterwards, we learned that they were missing some requirements to share with ZDI, so it took longer because they needed to fix that. But finally, the door opened and we were allowed in. We settled down, there was a little bit of small talk, but then it went pretty quick. A few things happened in parallel. So right here, Freddy was given a USB stick with the exploit on it. His job is now to share this with the team. Meanwhile, Christian got up and talked to the researchers about their bug.
Yes, so it's in the SpiderMonkey JS engine, and it's related to the implementation of the Promise.allSettled function.
Okay.
So Promise.allSettled take as an argument like an array of promises and return some object saying that if the promises has been rejected or fulfilled, right? And it's basically possible to create a custom promise for which we define a custom resolve and custom reject function. And it's possible to change the result array before the Promise.allSettled has actually been returned, resolved. And we can, so the availability is actually out of bound, right? Mm-hmm. And it happens because for each time we call the fulfill or the reject function, it will get the index related to the promise argument that we are processing, and this index is stored inside the reject or fulfill.
But the array is still mutable.
Yes. So we and what we do is actually we shift after we shift the array, so we can after that get some first OOB read, and from the OOB read we can bypass. So OOB read happens, and it's basically based on the check if the value is undefined. Then we can bypass that check and perform a out of bound write.
Okay. Yeah.
While they were talking, maybe you noticed that Freddy attached the proof of concept file to the Mozilla ticket and shared the link with the team. Freddy then also tries to run the exploit in a VM because they need to confirm that it's real. And then Christian also tried to bisect it, which means he's running it against the last 6 months of Firefox builds, hoping to identify when the issue got introduced.
We can't actually bisect this. Bug's too old. Bug's too old? Why is it too old? Like it
doesn't reproduce in...
It reproduces on stock build.
They were able to reproduce the issue and it turns out the issue is older.
It's probably older. Yeah. We do preserve builds for 6 months, I believe. No, 6 months.
We're not aware of the bug. The JS developer confirmed. Our principal engineer in the JavaScript team explicitly says you can thank them for providing an excellent POC and write-up. It reproduced immediately in my local debug JS shell. So thank you so much.
So the issue is confirmed to be unknown. That's a relief for the researchers and just the beginning for Mozilla to get this issue fixed. But that's mostly the responsibility of the engineers off-site. So Freddy and Christian can maybe relax a little bit and use this opportunity to ask the researchers a few more questions.
We spent actually a lot of time on the stability because on Windows it involves a lot of GC stuff. So on Windows we had some troubles to make it work like every time, like in the exploitation part. So basically that's our first time we also take a look at Mozilla Firefox. Okay. So we never touched Mozilla Firefox, but 4 weeks ago, like. Okay. So we spent actually a lot of time in the exploitation part because we didn't know anything, and we spent a lot of time also on the Chrome side. So it's very different. But it's very it's very interesting to see how things are different from one engine to another. And I think Firefox is very good. Like the implementation, we spend a lot of time trying to find a bug, and
somehow there are some areas it's much more difficult to exploit.
Yes.
More types than
yeah, definitely.
JIT types specific.
Yeah. JIT and
for the JIT we try to fix type confusions holistically. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also the object types.
Yeah, because in Chrome they have like this kind of mutable map, which is not the same for shapes in Firefox. So it makes the type confusion primitive easier in Chrome.
And well, that was it. This was the mysterious Pwn2Own disclosure room. Honestly, I don't know what I expected. Obviously, it's just a room where some people talk about an exploit and confirm it. No magic. But anyway, after a few more minutes, we packed our things and decided to head to the Mozilla office. We're in the taxi now and we are going to the Mozilla office.
Our team already has a copy of the sample. They are trying to take a look. It's already reproduces in debug builds, which is really, really useful. We also know that it triggers in debug builds and is not exploitable in debug builds because there's a debug assertion. So that's, first of all, really powerful for testing. And secondly, really giving us an indication of what we believe could be wrong in a release build. And maybe it's an assertion we could just enable in release. So that's promising. I'm really looking forward. But yeah.
At the office, I finally had time to look at the files that the researchers shared, especially their write-up. Mozilla Firefox SpiderMonkey out-of-bounds write remote code execution vulnerability. But Freddy and Dakota had other tasks to take care of.
I'm managing the incident process, so that basically means filling out the document, timelines, who's doing what, making sure that everyone is involved.
Mozilla uses Pwn2Own to practice emergencies, a fire drill for an in-the-wild zero-day vulnerability in Firefox. So they treat it like a real incident, which you can see here. Freddy takes on the role as the incident manager. You said you're incident manager right now?
I'm incident manager, yes.
So that's kind of like the overall coordination?
Coordination for the process, yeah.
By the way, these internal processes and documents around such an incident are very confidential data. So this is a really transparent insight how a corporation like Mozilla manages incidents. I'm very grateful that I'm able to show this, and I hope other companies can take inspiration from this. So thank you so much, Mozilla. While we were sitting in this room, we also started a conference call where people could join.
I'm getting the kids ready for school.
And while it was currently early afternoon in Germany, in the US, the day was just starting.
Everyone knows that Pwn2Own is happening. I just gave them a heads up that ESR will be affected, so they should plan to set desktop builds.
Yep, excellent.
What is ESR?
ESR is our extended support releases. That's the version that only updates every half year, I believe. And Tom specifically mentioned that he informed the Tor Browser people. Tom is our liaison for the Tor Browser, and they are also affected, but they use the ESR builds.
Decoder is trying to help Jan with bisection, so he's trying to identify when this bug was introduced and what was the oldest version where the exploit still works on. But that turned out to be not so simple.
So I'm trying to build the JS engine right now. It's funny that I first had to install Pwn2Own in order to be able to even run the configure script, but I believe there's still some errors in the build process that I will look at. And I actually managed to build the JavaScript shell from 6 years ago and reproduce it on the earliest build that we have where this API is actually added.
After they resolved all these issues, there was not too much that we could do anymore. Jan, being the engineer, was working on the patch, and we spent some time looking at the exploit. We were theorizing over why fuzzers didn't find this issue earlier and what could be improved in fuzzing to find similar issues like that in the future. And for example, we were also trying to make sense of the exploit itself. For example, what the shell code inside the wasm code really does. Because there was not much going on anymore, I was also asked by the Mozilla social media team to record some stuff for their Instagram. It was fun. I'm always curious how that regular influencer and marketing stuff works, but I cannot watch the result. They sent me the video for review, but I'm just cringing too much at myself that I didn't watch it. When I can create a script for a video like this here, I'm totally fine, but when I have to improvise and just speak, afterwards my brain will be stuck on thoughts like, why did I say this or why didn't I say that? Anyway, you can find the link below and maybe tell me how bad it was. After a while, we got an update from Jan. I have a patch that fixes the proof of concept in JS shell, but still looking through similar code elsewhere.
We have a prototype patch that may help fix the vulnerability. We don't have full confidence that it fixes all of the reasonably existing variants of the vulnerability. So currently we're trying to look at the code, seeing if there are other issues in other promise functions to make sure that we can definitely ship out a patch that doesn't put any kind of pointers or adds any additional exposure to other parts of the code base that may be similarly affected.
As you can imagine, we were basically just sitting around now. There is theoretically a fix, but you need to keep in mind that you cannot push this out immediately. First of all, Mozilla Firefox is open source, so once the patch lands, it basically becomes public. Also, they are not sure if there are variants of this issue.
We want to make sure we have confidence in the variants here, exactly. Like oftentimes our code is open source. Oftentimes people look at the commits, and especially if there's just one commit going into a new release, people know it's usually a security bug, and they try to find variants or adjust their fuzzers just as we adjust our fuzzers when we find new bugs. And
so in this case, it would be important to get the fixes for the variants out as well, rather than just emergency.
Yes, that's definitely the desire. Yeah.
And this is where the real in the wild 0-day maybe differs from the one at Pwn2Own. A real 0-day is already confirmed and known publicly, while this Pwn2Own bug is still private. So you have to do some risk assessment. On one side, you want the fire drill to be as realistic as possible, but on the other side, you don't want to actually introduce new risks or break Firefox just for a test. Also keep in mind tomorrow is day 2 of Pwn2Own, where maybe there's a second exploit requiring a patch as well. And so they decided to take the time and check for variants and wait for the other exploit tomorrow. Once they have that, they can go through the entire release pipeline with QA and do everything else that is necessary. So there was not much to do anymore. The time just passed and Freddy eventually handed off being the incident manager to Deanna Smith, who is a senior release manager. And she is in a different time zone, so she can take care of it over the night. And yeah, I went home and I was ready for the next day of Pwn2Own, where Manfred Paul is up to hack Firefox. Will he be successful? If you don't want to miss part 3, subscribe on YouTube and follow me on Twitter or Instagram. If you're interested to learn more about hacking, check out also our online courses on HEXTREE.io. We primarily have Android, web, and some hardware hacking videos right now. But if you're just interested in my free YouTube courses, you still should head over to HEXTREE.io because we put all my YouTube videos into a huge map as well. Here you can explore all my backlog of hundreds of videos in a more organized way and explore all the different topics that you might find interesting.